I will call him just now.
Please call him.
Okay, sir.
Varun has, Varun has arranged this talk.
Oh, great.
Oh, he directly contacted him and arranged the talk.
Oh, very good.
They are our leaders now.
Yeah, I think it is a nice thing because it is an opportunity even for me to know totally about InSpace.
Yes, we are looking for.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Sundaramurthy sir.
Good afternoon, Sundaramurthy. Good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Welcome.
I think the person was in Isaac, or
he was in Isaac. He was in Isaac.
He was in
URSC.
Sundaramurthy, he was in PPG Isaac.
PPG.
Okay.
I'm told he is known as a nice person. Very nice.
He is a member of our Bayakasha group also.
Oh, he said, he told me, I spoke to him. He told me I'm in the PJ Buds group and all that. He told me. Bahyakasha, correct.
Yeah.
Varun, what is the response?
Hello, sir. I couldn't connect him, but I just texted him. He's online.
ഒരു 9ാം ക്ലാസ് വരെ 8ാം ക്ലാസ് മുതൽ ഇന്റർവ്യൂ വെച്ചാ നമ്മളെ പരിപാടിയിൽ ഉൾപ്പെടുത്താൻ വേണ്ടി.
Sir, he will join in 1 minute.
He said so?
Yes, sir. I just talked to him.
Oh, good. Fine, that's fine. I was trying to talk to him. I was trying to take note. Oh, welcome.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Sayuj. There may be online problems sometimes. But she. Oh, hello, Mr.Jagathipriya. So nice to see you. Very warm welcome.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Jagati.
Oh, hello, sir. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Fine.
Yes, sir. So nice to join.
Should we start, Mr. Jagdi?
Yes, sir. We can start.
We are ready. We have 30 plus people. So generally we start dot on time at 3. So I think it's already 3. Varun?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Shilmash.
Shil sir, can I start now? Okay, sir. So, good afternoon to one and all. Very warm welcome to UL Space Club webinar session 53. We are on the 53rd session of our webinar series, which has now a wider audience across India since the May 2020. We started our webinar series during the COVID pandemic situations to overcome the lack of activities in UL Space Club and other social activities in the area of STEMs. Your Space Club has been conducting plenty of webinar sessions to spread knowledge in the areas of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and space as part of our activity to nurture and grooming students in the area of STEMs. So now we are moving on the 53rd session with an interesting topic regarding the role of inspector in the Indian space sector. Our topic is in space and its introduction to in space and its mandate in Indian space sector. We have an expert on that topic, and who is an inevitable part of in space, who is Dr. Jagathipriya is here. So we are very happy to welcome him. Shajil sir will give him a more detailed introduction about Jagathipriya sir. And before going to Shajil sir, I want to make a few reminders regarding the instructions for the student participants. We have a chat window in the Google Meet. You can use the chat window for asking questions. You can type your questions while our speaker is having the presentation. If you have any queries, you can ask it in the chat windows. We will have a question and answer session after the presentation. So we will take your question at the time of question and answer session, and you can directly interact with our speaker. So please use the chat window in the best way. Please don't use it for unnecessary conversations. And other details regarding UL Space Club activities will be also provided in the chat window at the last part of our webinar. You will have a quiz competition after this webinar. At the end of our webinar session, we will give you the link to access the quiz competition. The quiz competition will be based on InSpace and its activities. So another few instructions are: please switch off your mic and camera throughout the session unless you are asked to switch on it. When you are speaking to the speaker and other participants, you can switch on your mic and camera. Otherwise, please try to switch off your mic and camera, and please don't try to share your screen. If you are sharing your screen, it will be an interruption to other participants when they are listening to our speaker's presentation, and it will affect our streaming also. Our UL Space Club webinar session 53 is going live streamed in the YouTube channel of UL Space Club. So for all these things, please don't try to share your screen. So please keep these instructions in your mind. And let's move on to Shajil sir, and let's kickstart the 53rd session of our webinar series. Shajil sir, or to you.
Thank you, Shajul sir, for the wonderful introduction. I would like to first thank UL Space Club for providing an opportunity to share my thoughts and introduce about the activities of InSpace to all the interested participants. Special thanks to Kuti sir for organizing this series of lecture and enthusing the students about space, and also Varun for coordinating. I would like to specially mention about PJ Bhatt sir. Very thanks to you, sir. You are participating, and I cherish that time when we work together in ISAC. Well, I will make a short presentation from my side, and as Varun has told, you can all note down your questions, and we will try to make it more interactive towards the end of this session. Hope my slides are visible. Can anyone confirm?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yes, visible. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, clear.
Well, as you know, in India, the space program started in the 1960s. Everybody is aware that Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, the father of Indian space program, who started this journey by in a very modest way by launching a small, what you call as an sounding rocket, but that fueled the minds of many people in the country as well as the institutions. And today we are able to realize satellites such as Chandrayaan, even go to Mars, realize satellites for like GSAT-11 to meet the societal needs. But all this started way back in 1960s in a small church in Tumba village in a small part of Kerala. And the vision what he gave was in 1960s, it holds good even today. And this quotation, I don't need to repeat. Everybody has gone are now well familiar with it. But still, for the sake of just providing a link between why we are starting InSpace and how it started in the 1960s, I would like to just give a brief link to that. We started in 1960s with a modest beginning. That space is going to play a meaningful role in the life of the people of the country, and through space, Vikram Sarabhai envisaged that we can bring a lot of solution to the developing country like India. From that modest beginning of the sounding rockets, now we have a fleet of operational launch vehicles. ISRO has already realized 100 plus satellites, and through its commercial arm of Antrix and Encil, it is already providing services to more than 33 countries. It has launched around 300 satellites. So now we have an operational PSLV, GSLV Mark II and GSLV Mark III, which can carry up to around 4 tons to the geosynchronous orbit. And coming to the satellite side, now we have an operational remote sensing satellites. More than 50 satellites in remote sensing and communication and navigation are there in the orbit from India. And we are also having a host of applications like Bhuvan, and then Mosdak, then Vedas, through which a lot of Earth observation applications are being used by different ministries. Through this, what I wanted to say from this slide is through these 100 plus satellites which ISRO has realized and around 50 plus satellites which are there in orbit, a lot of services are being given to the people of this country. In addition to that, there is already a lot of scope which exists through which we can reach out to the international market. There is also a scope to do the activities in a much more efficient and effective way, which needs furthermore satellites to be realized, furthermore launch vehicles to be realized, and furthermore applications to be developed. And all these activities currently which are being carried out by ISRO, there is a possibility that if there is a greater participation of the private people and private industries, much more services through space can be given to the people of the country, as well as we can also go to the international fora, international market, and also get some and expand the business of the Indian industries and capture further global market. As I was telling, in the 1960s when we started, it was an initial phase. All the developments with related to space technology was in the nascent stage. It was developed from the scratch, and through that we developed our own launch vehicles, we developed our own satellites, we developed our own applications. And the initial 10 years was identified as an initial phase. Then there was an experimental phase where ASLV, SSLV was done, INSAT series and the remote sensing series was getting established. Then 1990s came where all these activities were operationalized. And it was in the 2000 when the expansion phase happened, where industries began more and more participating in the space activities, where all the hardwares required for making a rocket or hardwares required for making a satellite or testing a satellite was being done through the industries. Now we have come to a phase where now industry is able to realize an end-to-end system of all this of our satellite as well as launch vehicle. As you are aware, now industry has taken up the assembly, integration and testing of satellite, and industry is able to make the entire stages of a rocket. Now next what? After this what? So now our Indian industry has to mature where it can make its end-to-end systems of the satellites and launch vehicles on its own. You might have heard, like in foreign industries are there, like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Thales, Airbus, where they themselves make the entire satellite or they themselves make an entire launch vehicle. Like in case of NASA, they get an order, Boeing can get an order from NASA to make a satellite, and then it can be realized on its own. Like now Airbus, Ariane, so many are there, and now also everybody I think would be familiar with Elon Musk, where he is making his own Falcon series of launch vehicles. And there is Jeff Bezos, who makes the Blue Origin. Then there is the Starlink kind of satellite. Then in Europe, there is a OneWeb configuration, OneWeb satellites which are being made by with the participation of UK government plus the OneWeb communication systems. So like that, next there is an ample opportunity in the country where the Indian industries can make its own satellites. Indian industry will make its own launch vehicle. They will develop its own application, and it can be marketed within the country as well as outside. That is the next stage where the government is envisaging that Indian industries can participate in a very great extent. Before going to what InSpace is doing and why InSpace was formed, I just wanted to give some glimpse about or some information how the space economics works. I think all this in the previous seminars, which are the previous speakers would have told you about the space technology, about rockets, about launch, how to make a satellite. But here just I want to give about an economics of this space activities. If you see today, the overall space budget or a space economy in the whole world is estimated somewhere between 400 to 450 billion dollars. This slide I am just giving you to give an example how the government agencies are investing in the making an investment in the space activities. When it comes to United States, it's the highest investment are made by the government of US in the space activities or the space in their NASA budget. That is around 43 billion. As against which India, you may see it varies somewhere between 1.5 to $2 billion. And throughout the world, now what is happening is the private people are investing more and more in the space activities, whereas the government expenditure is coming down. Even NASA is spending, means the government, US government is the allocation which is making to NASA, it is coming down year by year. Similarly, even in the European countries, the government spending in space is coming down, whereas the private investments are in the space is going up. In this slide, you can see how the India is compared as against the US budget, and you can see that there is a lot of investments which needs to be made if India has to produce more and more satellites, produce more and more launch vehicles, and make space more commercialized in the future. As I was explaining, this is this estimate made by SIA, that is Space Industry Association, that the global space economy was around $386 billion during the 2021. In this, one aspect which I want to draw all your attention is the small percentage which is being shown in brown and the black color, that is 13.7 billion and the 5.7 billion for the launch manufacturing. This is the only expenditure which happens for making the launch vehicles and satellites, which is hardly around $20 billion, which is around only 10% of the entire space economy. So where the most of the money is going, or where the most of the expenditure is happening or the investment is happening, is in the applications area. The maximum money or the business exists in applications area, which is the communication, remote sensing, or the navigation, or the consumer equipment, or the network equipment. What today we are having the DTH applications, where today we are having lot of OTT platforms. Today we are using satellite for the backhauling of our mobile communication. Today we are using the GPS for different applications. Most of our online deliveries, they use DTH for making the delivery, or tracking the logistics, or tracking the human beings, or tracking the cargo. All those things are coming as a part of the application. There are a lot of unique applications which are being developed using the satellite data, which constitutes almost 80% of the entire space, the global economy. Here is which the government of India is targeting, that the Indian industries, with the utilization of the IT and ITES, what we have the strength in the country, these applications, unique applications, Indian industries can develop, and it can be marketed throughout the globe for increasing our market share in the global economy. As I was explaining, this is one more depiction of how the things are coming down. You can see in the the budget of India and the United States as compared to other countries. I think we have covered. I will skip this. Then now some few major points I wanted to tell before going to introduce in space why the government of India thought that we need to unlock the space sector. As I explained earlier, the entire global market, the entire space economy, is being valued at $447 billion. This $447 billion US dollars, in that the India share currently is around 2 to 3%. To say to convert this into Indian rupees and say, the experts have estimated that the Indian space economy, including the ISRO budget, including the DTH, with the investments we are making in the form of satellite applications like the DTH, the communication market, the VSAT market, then the applications in various forms such as the navigation systems, etc., is evaluated at around 38,000 crores as on date, which constitute only 2 to 3%. And there is an ample scope exists that in this market, this $447 billion is expected to reach $600 billion in the by 2025. That is in around another next 3 to 4 years. So what can be done that our Indian industries can participate more and more and more in this, and take this 2 to 3% into 8 or 10%, or around 10 to 12%? how to do that, the government has taken a lot of inputs from all the experts in the country. It has also considered that there is a global trend in there, which is shifting from public funded to a private funded organizations. I will come in the few next slides, where how investment is happening by investors within the country as well as outside in this market. And the allocation of government budget to ISRO is only 0.5 of the government of India budget. If you consider that ISRO budget is somewhere between 12,000 to 14,000 crores per year. And other than the ISRO budget, the other expenditure which is happening, if it is also considered as around 10 to 15,000 crores by in the form of the electronics which are required for the communication services and others, still the allocation of the government is limited to only 0.5 of its entire every year budget. If you can consider the India's budget somewhere between 20 to 21 lakh crores per year. Similarly, as I was explaining, ISRO has invested extensively over the last few years to around something 80,000 crores to develop its own capital intensive facilities. As you know, in Trivandrum we have VSSC, in Bangalore we have URSC which makes the satellite, then in Sriharikota we have the entire launch the service facilities, different launch pads. We have the technology to make satellites, to make the launch vehicles, and all this expertise. This can be leveraged by the private industry to make the space economy more vibrant. ISRO has a lot of its suppliers, around more than 400 to 500 suppliers are there, from starting from a small nut, bolt to capacitor, resistor to the end-to-end system where the hardwares are made in the industries. So we have a lot of suppliers have been developed, both in PSU as well as in private. We have big industries like PSUs like HAL, BHEL, BEL. In private, we have L&T, Godrej. Many big industries are there who can now graduate from the suppliers, or who are the vendors. They can become end-to-end manufacturers of the satellite as well as launch vehicles. And the space-based application and services, which constitute more than 70% of the space economy, India's strength in developing unique space-based applications for societal needs and the potential strength of the youngsters in the information technology and information technology enabled services industry can be tapped for capturing the global market. So in this regard, Government of India took a very bold decision, and in the June 2020, that is almost 2.5 years back, it announced the space sector unlocking, or what was called as the space sector reforms, wherein the private industries or NGEs, what the government called non-governmental entities, NGEs, can carry out the end-to-end activities in the space domain. What is that end-to-end activities? That is, as I explained earlier, instead of supplying a small parts or the components or the to ISRO, now an industry themselves can develop, make a satellite on their own, launch their satellite on their own, and operate the satellites on their own, and also develop applications using the information which is available, or the data which is available with the ISRO satellites as well as their own satellites, and market it both within the country as well as outside the country. In order to enable this, it created an autonomous body called as InSpace. It was created under Department of Space, which will promote, authorize, enable, and also monitor the activities of the private sector in space. To just give an comparison, if you see, we have in the telecommunication sector, that is in the mobile sector, we have something called as TRAI, which regulates the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, which regulates the telecom activities in the country. We have SEBI, which regulates the banking sector by the private banks in the country. Similarly, InSpace has a role of both a regulator for private space activities as well as promoter for the private space activity, since this activity or this domain is still in the nascent stage and still in the budding stage. So in order to promote them, in order to handhold them, in order to monitor them and supervise and support them, InSpace has been created. So in order to provide a framework for all these activities, in order to ensure that everybody knows what their roles and responsibilities are and how the government will help them, in order to make a formal mechanism for that, the Indian Space Policy 2022 is being finalized. That will be released shortly. Also, FDI policy of the space sector is being revised. What is this FDI? This foreign direct investment, which enables the foreign investors to invest their money in the deep technology areas like this satellites or launch vehicles. It is being more liberalized. What happens whenever the FDI has to come into the country, it has to come through certain approval process. All the foreign investments currently have to come through the approval of government. But in other cases, in other industries, there is a much more liberalized policy where there is no need for government approval for all the investment up to certain level. In certain way, in the similar way, now up to almost 70 to 75% of the investments can go in the automatic route. That is what government is proposing, and that also will be enabled in shortly. If you see in the country, there is a lot of movement in the startup sector. Lot of youngsters are becoming entrepreneurs, and they are developing new, unique and a different solution. You would have heard all this recently, whatever is going on in like Ola, Uber, Zomato. So there are so many sectors where for the day-to-day life of the people, they are trying to provide lot of services through which the startups are also able to survive. In the similar way, the startups only attract more and more FDI, and there is a policy, and there is a separate activities which are going on where the startups are being promoted to come to more and more in this technology sector also, not only in the commercial area. And this FDI is expected to fuel the necessary investment for them to do their business. And also in the legal regime, the space activities bill will be released once the space policy is in place. Now, just to give an example of, to give you an idea how the InSpace is, we have the chairman InSpace, we have the InSpace headquarters is in Ahmedabad, and one office is in Bangalore campus also. The InSpace chairman will be advised through the InSpace board. The InSpace board consists of experts from the industry, the government representatives, the representatives from the academia who will be advising him on various matters. And the chairman InSpace keeps apprising the activities of InSpace to the Space Commission, which is the highest policy making body in the country. And the entire InSpace is under the overall umbrella of Department of Space. And chairman InSpace is supported through 4 directorates. One is the promotion directorate, which will do the necessary promotion for space industries. Promotion may be in terms of mentorship, promotion may be in terms of hand-holding, promotion may be in terms of providing the seed fund, identifying the investors, etc. Similarly, the program management and the authorization directorate, in which I am also working. This program management and authorization directorate will receive all the proposals from the private sector. It will help them to interface with necessary interface from the ISRO if required. It will also authorize the space activities. I will come in more detail about each of the directorates in the next slide. Similarly, technical directorate is developing these space standards for the industries to adhere to. It is also handholding them and also giving them technical advice how to develop some complex engineering solutions. And we have finally the Joint Secretary of InSpace, who takes care of the legal, finance, and the administrative matters. The InSpace headquarters, which is there in Ahmedabad, was inaugurated by the Prime Minister in June 2020. The Prime Minister has been very supportive of this, and it was his vision that the InSpace has to come into picture, into existence, and there is an ample scope among the youngsters and the industries and the entrepreneurs who are very enthusiastic to take up the space activities in the country, and hence the space reforms have to be implemented. That was his vision, which is being implemented by the government. And these are the three agencies which are enabling the space sector reforms in the country. One is the InSpace, which is the anchoring this the reforms. All the private players will have to come to InSpace, and they are being authorized and promoted through InSpace. As you know, ISRO is the cornerstone of the space activities in the country. ISRO has developed a lot of expertise in the form of satellite technology, launch vehicle technology, space application. It has invested and over a period of time into a huge capital intensive infrastructure in the form of launch pad. It may be the launch vehicle testing, the satellite testing, data centers. A huge repository of the remote sensing data exists with ISRO. Similarly, all the other necessary data communication links, everything is there, which this can be leveraged by the space industry, nascent space industry. Also, we have a PSU under DOS called as NSIL, New Space India Limited, which is the marketing arm of ISRO, which markets the products of ISRO, which does the technology transfer which ISRO has developed, as well as markets the ISRO's launch vehicle outside the country. So all these three put together will support the space sector privatization as well as the handholding for the space industries. So what does InSpace do? The role of InSpace can be divided into four major verticals. That is, InSpace, the primary role currently is to promote the Indian industries, then enable them by allowing them access to the capital intensive facilities of ISRO, the technical expertise available with ISRO, then the necessary support required in terms of identifying the investors, maybe in the government and outside the government, as well as providing them seed fund if necessary. Then other role is to regulate the space activities, because why this regulation is required is India is the space outside the space. When we talk of space, it does not have any boundaries. The outer space is a there is no boundaries in space, but that doesn't mean that anybody can do anything in space. So the international lot of treaties have been signed, and which India is also a signatory to it, like the Outer Space Treaty, the Liability Convention, the Registration Convention. All these treaties makes the country or the Indian government responsible for the space activities. Whatever happens in space by an Indian or by Indian industry, the government of India becomes responsible for that. If any damage happens to any satellite, other country's satellite in space, we have signed the Liability Convention, where government of India will be liable for paying those damages. Similarly, when the launch vehicle is being flown, if the launch vehicle parts fall on some other country or fall into the land of some other country, then also the Indian government becomes liable if there is some damage because of that. So in order to regulate all these activities, if the launch vehicles are done by private industries, or if the satellite from a private industry goes and hits some other satellite in the space, then there needs to be a regulation. So that function will be performed by InSpace through authorizing all these space activities and maintaining a register of the Indian space objects, ensuring that the liability aspects are addressed. All these things happen through the authorizer. Similarly, as you know, space is a very sensitive as well as hazardous activity. The launch vehicle carries tons and tons of propellants in it. More than 200 to 300 tons of propellant in the solid propellant or liquid propellant is being used while making when the rocket is being assembled, or when the rocket is being launched. So safety aspects and security aspects also come into picture. That is the role. Through this, the role of supervisor in space will be supervising all the activities of the private industries. To give you some more detail, the promoter, as a promoter, InSpace is coming out with a strategy where it will bring out a vision for the next 10 years to indicate to the Indian startups that these are the sectors, these are the domains, or these are the applications which are globally more profitable, more business worthy, and more sustainable. Such a strategy is being brought out by InSpace to guide the young startup industry. Similarly, it will go into the industry outreach and provide all the support or the regulations that is necessary for the industries to survive and to grow. It will engage with academia. How it will engage with academia? And that InSpace is trying to introduce some space courses, space minor courses, both at the graduate and at the postgraduate level, so that the students who are coming out are more aware specific to the space domain. We have the Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology, which is one institute where the graduation happens. Specific topics about the space technology is being taught. Similar way, some courses are being tried to introduce in the IITs right now, where these courses which are specific to space technology, it may be in the controls, it may be in navigation, it may be in propulsion systems, such are being introduced, so that we have an output of students who are ready to actually start working on the satellite as well as launch vehicle technologies. Through its promotion, InSpace is reaching out to different countries and trying to find out trying to market the technology as well as the potential which exists with the within the country, which can be used for, which can be marketed in their potentially marketed in their places, which will be both beneficial to India as well as those countries, and also enable in the development of diplomacy between the two countries. As an enabler, it will nurture and support the startups by accessing the ISRO technical facilities, enable transfer of technology from ISRO to NGE. There are a lot of technologies which have commercial potential, which is used for making the satellite, which is used for making the launch vehicle. This can be used instead of the startups investing its time to develop a new technology. It can take the technology from ISRO and try to see how it can be commercialized outside, how it can be marketed outside, how it can be packaged in such a way that it is more a commercially viable product. And it also facilitates, as I told, the startups, investors, the confidence will boost in the investors if these activities of these private industries are authorized or certified by InSpace. So that work also InSpace is doing. And InSpace is establishing an accelerator center. What this means is it is like an incubation center where InSpace will provide them the area, it will provide them the technical facilities, it will provide them everything under one roof, and the industry startups will be incubated in their formative years so that they can sustain and grow big. One of the vision of the government is to make India as the manufacturing hub of the satellite systems and the space systems in the world. As you know, recently there is a trend that LEO this small satellites in the LEO orbit are growing in number of in thousands of numbers. You would have heard Starlink kind of satellite systems, OneWeb kind of satellite systems, Kuiper, O3b. All these people are making thousands of satellites and launching them into LEO orbit. These small 5 kg, 10 kg, 50 kg, 150 kg satellites, and this constellation is used for the providing internet, satellite-based internet services. So these satellites are to be manufactured in hundreds of numbers per year. Why can't India become a manufacturing hub for these satellites is one of the thought process of the government. So in order to help that, the space system manufacturing hub is being established across the country with the support of the respective state governments. As I explained earlier, InSpace will become the authorizer for all the space private activities in the country, and it will act as a single window agency for approving the space activities in the country. What it means is, while launching a satellite especially, you need the spectrum allocation. That is currently being done by the Department of DOT, Department of Telecommunication. Suppose if you have to launch a launch vehicle, you have to get the safety clearances for the propulsion system. That is being done by another government department called as PISO. Like that, we have lot of departments. We need to take the approval from the security angle from the Ministry of Home Affairs. We need to get, if FDI is coming, we need to get the approval of RBI. We need to get the approval of Department of Foreign Trade. So lot of government departments are involved in approving the space activities. So InSpace will coordinate with all these agencies, and it is planning to set up an interministerial committee which will sit together and provide the approval as a single window agency for the space activities. And I explained earlier, the space is a very risky domain, a very technology intensive domain, and also a lot of security threat aspects are involved because some of the technologies are dual use technology. So InSpace will work as a supervisor for the project implementation, as well as define the space system standards and monitor the adherence to these safety standards. As I was talking in the earlier slide, there is a lot of interdepartmental coordination which is required from DOS, from Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Any new channel which has to be introduced will need the MIB approval. Any frequencies which has to be used for sending the data, receiving the satellite information, all has to go through the DOT. Any investor has to invest in space, any foreign investment has to come, it has to be approved by the department DPIIT. Similarly, all this coordination will be done through InSpace. Coming to authorization, I think we have covered this. The launch vehicle, the satellite, even the individual payloads, establishment of spacecraft, control and monitoring stations, the ground station, and all these activities will need the authorization from the InSpace. And one more major thing is the technology transfer, which I was trying to explain earlier. InSpace will provide all those technologies which can be offloaded from ISRO centers. It may be in the domain of launch vehicle, it may be in the domain of some process technology, it may be a product technology, it may be even developing some algorithms for the satellite data algorithms. All those things will be available. It is already available in the ISRO website. This will be almost around 78 to 80 technologies are already readily available, which can be accessed by the Indian industries through the formal mechanism of technology transfer. A few more slides about what is the mandate. This is the mandate given to InSpace by the government. I will not go into the details. It is already available outside. But what I wanted to highlight here is in space will enable the temporary facility access of all the space infrastructure available under the ISRO to the Indian industries. This is mainly required in the initial stages because all the facilities required for manufacturing a satellite or the components of a launch vehicle are all very capital intensive. That means you need to invest in thousands of crores to establish all the facilities which ISRO has already established over a period of 5 decades. But for a nascent industry, for a budding startup, such huge investments may not be possible. So until they sustain, until the industry matures, and there is a lot of investment in this sector and it becomes commercially a viable product, ISRO's facility will be offered to these startup industries as well as the MSMEs, that is the micro, medium and small industries, at a subsidized cost so that they can develop, qualify and market their products. Also, temporary facilities will be allowed to be established by these industries within the ISRO premise. I will give you one example in the later stage, while already one such temporary facility for the launch facility has been established by one of the startups in Sriharikota. And also, the usage of data which is available within ISRO, that already ISRO over a period of 5 decades has launched more than 50 to 60 remote sensing satellites. These satellites have generated a lot of data about the various aspects of, say, it may be about crop yield estimation, it may be about the land usage data, it may be about the water resources data. That is already available for the entire country. And also with the already around 10 to 12 satellites are there in the orbit which are generating this data. This data will be provided to the industries either free of cost or at a very reasonable price, so that the applications can be rolled out from these industries and it can be sold to the government itself or to other users, like it may be about the urban planning, it may be about ocean data, it may be about the for the insurance sector, for the crop estimation and the crop diseases, all those things. So a lot of scope exists, and with using the ISRO's remote sensing data, they can roll out the application. So that spacecraft data will be provided at a very reasonable cost to the NGEs. And the integrated launch manifest of all these ISRO's launch vehicles or the launch vehicles which are being developed by the private industries all need to be coordinated in the coming years, because there may be, from using the same launch vehicle and ISRO launch also may be going, there may be a private launch manufacturer who may be interested to launch. So in order to coordinate all these things, the integrated launch manifest will be developed by InSpace. Sajil or Varun, how many more minutes I have? Can I just so that I can accordingly?
Sir, let's go ahead, sir.
Okay.
As much time as you need.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Now, I just want to highlight what from June 2020 till now, in the last 2.5 years, what progress has been achieved in this sector of the private industries. I want to highlight. More than 100 startups and MSMEs have approached InSpace seeking the technical support or the authorization support and the mentorship. So all these applications I have just tried to categorize into different domains so that an idea can come. You can see 158 applications have been received till date, majorly in the area of satellite manufacturing and also in the area of launch vehicle manufacturing. These applications are seeking the support of ISRO in terms of handholding them, in terms of guiding them for getting some technical expertise, utilization of some facilities available in ISRO, in different centers of ISRO, and also for giving the authorization for some of their activities. But one thing what we have to notice is, out of this 158, 100 applications are almost more than 70% of their applications are towards manufacturing of the satellite and launch vehicles. But if you remember in my initial slides, I showed you around 80% of the space activities are dominated by the space applications. The manufacturing of the satellites and launch vehicles is less than 20% of the entire space global economy. So what InSpace is trying to convey to the startups and to the industries is to concentrate more on application side, where currently the number of applications are very less from the Indian industries. Though manufacturing a satellite and the launch vehicle seems to be a very technology dominant domain, which excites the youngsters to work on the technology aspects. Going down the number of years, these the applications will bring in more what you call business opportunities for the startups. Initially, they will be able to make a headway in this sector. Ultimately, it is the applications and the need for the satellite imageries or the satellite data which will propel the manufacture of satellites and the launch vehicles. And coming to the other aspect, the category of NGEs, we have received the application from more than 117 startups and the industries and the MSMEs, out of which 53 are the startups and 26 are the major industries which are seeking approval from the InSpace. Also, lot of academics, if you see, because here the participants are mostly from the schools, colleges and other places. There are almost 17 institutes which have come forward to make a satellite. There are 1 or 2 colleges which are interested in making a small rockets also. This will enable the students to understand the end-to-end how the engineering solution works, how the technology projects are implemented. This will give an idea and also propel their mind towards going towards the technology domain instead of the regular the IT or the IT industries, which is more attractive for among the college students. Also, already InSpace has signed 18 agreements with the industries to provide them all the support what I explained earlier. And this joint project implementation plan, where this is a kind of a contract which has been signed for allowing them access to certain facilities of ISRO. And in addition to that, a lot of interests are coming, and currently around 8 MOUs are already in the advanced stage of processing. The third point is an important point, where 5 authorization for launch of rockets and satellite have already been issued by InSpace. That means 5 launch out of this 5, 1 launch vehicle and the remaining 4 are satellites are already launched, and it has been successful by the private industries in the country. I will come to the details in the next slide. Now, this what we saw earlier from $386 billion, it is going to become $600 billion in the next 5 years is the estimate by some of the consultancy agencies. So what India was at 2 to 3% of the space economy is expected to grow, or is expected to capture 8 to 10% of the global market by 2025 is one of the estimates. So what it means, how it will happen. We are already seeing positive steps in this side towards achieving this target. In 2020, in the year 2020, if you see, the investment in space sectors by the private agencies was hardly $23 million. Now, in the year 2022, already by the time of October, $108 million have been invested by different venture capitalists, then the investors, then the foreign direct investment. So you can see a 5-fold increase in the last 2 years in the investment. You can also see how the number of startups have grown in the technology sector. Generally, globally also, the number of startups which are getting registered in the deep technology sectors, like it may be in terms of space, it may be in terms of AI, ML, or any such deep technology sectors. The startups coming up are very less. But in India, you can see from the year 2019, from the small number of 7, in 2021, 47 industry startups have registered. If you go to the government website, you can see now almost 155 startups are there specific to the space sector in the country. In terms of investment, in 2020, there was an amount $9 billion which has been invested in the upstream and downstream market. This is expected to become $13 billion in the 2025, which excludes the communication and other the television sector and other investments in the electronics in that sector. Excluding that, almost around $13 to $14 billion are expected to be invested in the Indian space segment. So coming to what was achieved in terms of projects, what I was mentioning, the 5 authorizations has been issued by InSpace already. Some major things I want to highlight it here. I think everybody is aware that recently a startup called as Skyroot Aerospace carried out a maiden launch of the suborbital launch vehicle. This startup is done by 2 youngsters, almost in the age of around 25 to 30. They, along with their team, they came up with an idea of starting their own company for making the launch vehicle in the year 2019 or in the year 2020. In almost a time period of 2 years, they were able to make a launch vehicle which could go up to around 80 kilometers and also take a payload, a small payload in carry it on it. They manufactured all the components of that launch vehicle. They carried out the ground test for all these components. It was a solid propulsion motor. They tested it, and they tested all the communication systems also required to communicate from the ground to the launch vehicle, and they have carried out this launch on November 18th. This was supported by ISRO in terms of providing them the launch infrastructure for launching the rocket from Sriharikota. They supported in terms of carrying out the technical reviews for clearing this rocket, and InSpace facilitated and coordinated with other agencies for getting them the approval, and this became a success. In the next year, now they are planning to do a orbital launch itself, and their final plan is to develop a launch vehicle which can carry a satellite of around 300 to 400 kg into the LEO orbit. Similarly, one more startup called as Agnikul Cosmos. This is currently in Chennai. It is being incubated by IIT Madras. They have also come up with a suborbital launch, and they also want to carry a orbital launch in the next year. These people have established their own private launch pad within the ISRO facility, that is at Sriharikota, which was inaugurated by Chairman ISRO recently. They are also going to carry a suborbital launch, and that is being planned to be carried out in the month of January. Maybe all of the participants can look out, and this will be witness the live telecast of this during the first week of January. And there is one more startup called as Dhruva Space, which is situated in Hyderabad. These youngsters have designed, developed, and launched Thibault, the satellite called as Thibault. It was a small satellite, you can call it as a CubeSat. This they want to now next go into and venture for developing 30 to 40 kg satellite. The payload can come from any customer. The bus will be standard, and these people will launch it and also control the satellite through their control center. since the lot of participants in this webinar or the online meet are from schools and colleges, I wanted to highlight certain steps which InSpace has taken to encourage the academic institution to carry out the space activities. As I explained earlier, we have come out with a differential pricing policy, that is the ISRO facility support, the technology transfer support, or the data support is being provided to these academic institutions at a discounted price, so that they need not they can be encouraged to take these facilities and develop the space activities more and more, and involve the children students in the making of a satellite, or making a model rocketry, or a CANSAT kind of thing. A technical center is being established in Ahmedabad to support the development of space products, where the institutes can take their subsystem or hardware and test it using the facilities which is being established at Ahmedabad by InSpace. This is also will be at a very nominal price. And InSpace will be carrying out, has already carried out lot of workshop, symposium, industry meet, where the students as well as the college professors and the faculty can participate, and they can get to know what is happening in the space in the country, as well as on specific topics. ISRO and InSpace together, they have constituted a standing committee where the proposals for making a satellite is being received. Almost 10 to 15 proposals have already been reviewed, where the committee will handle the colleges or these schools, and tell them if the institution comes with an idea, then this committee will help them to convert it into a project, and also to identify the milestones which they will have to undergo, and also identify them what all the support they will get from ISRO, which center of ISRO will support them, how to make it into a successful project, and to realize the system. That handholding is being done through this standing committee. InSpace has announced a CANSAT competition with a specific objective to attract the graduate students. Around already 50 colleges had submitted more than 50 had submitted their proposals, and the first preliminary review was completed, and what is called as the preliminary design review, and around 40 colleges have been shortlisted, who will now make the CANSAT, and this CANSAT competition is planned during the next year at Ahmedabad, where all the launching facility will be provided by InSpace. These students have to make the CANSAT and launch it, and they will be awarded for this. So successful colleges will be awarded in this. Why this CANSAT competition is being held? It will be held almost yearly basis from now on. In addition to that, a model rocketry competition also is being planned. This will expose the student community to the technology, high-end technology products. It will help them to go through the entire life cycle of that project, how to plan from the beginning, from the problem statement to the completion of the project, how to handle all these different various stages. They will come to know, so which will make them ready to take up further challenges in their career. And also, the InSpace will provide the mentorship support, and they are going to define the industry standards. This will help the students to come up with more and more structured way their activities or the projects which they are going to propose. I think with this I want to end, but only I wanted to show you there are a lot of industries like Agnicol, Skyroot, Anand Technologies, more than 300 industries. I am sure one among you will start your own startup and will come to InSpace asking for support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the presentation. Shil, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. In fact, I must tell Mr. Jagati, in fact, Jagathipriya, his full name is Jagathipriya. Okay, that this is my association, which where I am the part of this, and we were all went to the same college in Kerala. And we have one of our affiliation is slightly different than I think you must know Mr. Kamalakar, who is also Isaac, Leo's director, etc. Kamalakar, myself, we are classmates in the same college. So after that, we moved on to the Institute of Science, then ISRO, etc., etc. That's the kind of thing we do it. Okay, so this is the background, and the in space, in which Mr. Jagati is also part of that, has been giving a lot of encouragement to many companies in order to make that ecosystem more the global ecosystem, to get the more global ecosystem in this. And the companies like us, we have been working with ISRO for long years. Now an opportunity has been given to us in terms of reforms that we can do much more to the global space economy in that. And towards that, in space, particularly Mr. Jagati, Ms. Bijesh Soni, and then the director, all of them have been helping us a lot in terms of doing that part of it. Hopefully, very soon, India being the only market, large market for the space economy also, space sector also. So hopefully, we'll be able to do much more on that. That's why towards that, we also constructed our facilities in Bangalore, exclusively only for satellite manufacturing. So any one of the students who have been inspired by Mr. Jagati's his guidance now, we'll be glad to support them in terms of making the satellites in our facilities in Bangalore, and we also can encourage them further in doing things so in that. And similarly, we have another facility in Trivandrum, which are dedicated for the launch vehicle side, and we'll be glad to assist any one of your the students and other associates, whoever it is, to help them also in Kerala too on that. So hopefully, we create the world-class space systems in this country. Thank you very much.
Yes, I was very glad that you could participate, a very senior person in this. So, sir, we have been interacting recently, and they are coming. He is one of the role models, what we can say, for the private space industries in the country. He has established a huge facility in Bangalore, as well as in Hyderabad and Trivandrum, for manufacturing the satellites and launch vehicles. And if any interested, they should certainly get to know more about Anand Technologies and also take the services from there for manufacturing the small satellites, cube satellites kind of thing. Thank you, sir, for your participation.
So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Haji. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We are very, very honored to have noted Indian space industrialist, Dr. Subbarao, with us. Dr. Subbarao is more close to us, not as a space industrialist, but as my old colleague in ISRO, and who regard me as friend and declared so publicly in NIT campus last 27th August. And we are really honored to have you here. To tell you frankly, I never expected such a marvelous presence here. I should say a magical presence here. Something so great. It's an unexpected presence. That is why it is so great. It is so nice. We are all very, very happy to have you here, sir. And Mr. Jagathipriya, this Dr. Subbarao has enabled our students to have a glimpse of how a satellite is being made. They were invited as his guests for students and for teachers. We went to his facility for two days. We spent there. It has been a lifetime experience, right? Lifetime dream of our students, and so nice, sir. It is very, very nice. And today I think it's a day noted in red letter day for us. For all these things, you're being here, and in this webinar, we usually get certain other veterans from ISRO, but your presence is something, I never knew that we had shared this link with you. I never knew it.
Oh yeah, Shaji has shared that link with me.
Shajil has done it. So I am at fault in not thinking even that. But then, it has really happened. We are very, very good. And Badsab is a regular member in our webinar team. And I will request Badsab to say a few words. Here, one thing I will come back again, because students will have to get time to make them questions. But on this talk itself, there are lots and lots of things which students may like to know. One thing which I have few other things, but one thing I just want to understand is your role in enabling outreach to schools and academic institutions, how it will be happening. You can tell later, but I just wanted to this thing, and also the StudSat initiatives which are coming now. Actually, Dr. Subbarao is here, and he has been encouraging our students to come out with a student satellite, and what the role played in the student satellite specifically as an enabler by InSpace, we would like to know. And one important thing you mentioned was about applications, space applications area, which is a very huge area, lot of opportunity there. Can students do anything there in applications area? Is there any scope for students to enter into the area and contribute in that? I would like to know some of these things. There are many more things I want to ask, but I don't want to come in between the students and you to clear their doubt. So thank you very much, and it's so nice of you for having come and gave a very good overview, very, very huge overview you gave about the InSpace, which is not known much even by a ISRO man like me. So thank you very much for doing so. Shajil Mash, what next? You are What's up?
Thank you, Putti sir. Namaste, Dr. Subbarao sir. After a long time, I'm seeing you. So nice to see you. And Putti sir has explained to me, has briefed me about everything which has gone on with respect to the interaction of the students with you. And it was unfortunate that when they were here in Bangalore, I was out of station. Otherwise, I would have been a part of the team, because it's a pleasure to work with this set of students. Thank you, Jagathipriya, for the excellent explanation on this, because I had read so much about InSpace. We have some views about InSpace, but the comprehensive details about InSpace, I got it today only, and I am very thankful to you, because these things help for some of us who go out and talk to so many students in so many colleges and schools where some questions come up about this. So it helps a lot, this kind of information. So thank you so much. So I think with these words, I want to thank UL Space Club for giving this such an opportunity to hear about InSpace. And with this, I don't want to come in the way between students and Jagathipriya. I think there are questions. Let us go ahead with that. Thank you so much.
So Febin is there to handle the Q&A.
Okay, by the time the students ask, I would like to thank all the seniors who are there, PJ Bhatt sir, Kutti sir, then our Subbarao sir, who have participated. and I think they are the true, mainly Kutti sir and Peter Bhatt sir have seen they are the true science communicators who will be going around the country and giving the lectures and inspiring the children about the space. Maybe this insight on InSpace will help them to further and take InSpace to the different parts of the state as well as the country. Okay.
Good afternoon to all. Especially, I think my interaction with Subbarao sir was not there because I was in the operations side. But today I come to know, and anyway, Kutti sir has already told about the students' visit, and then you have really done a wonderful job in encouraging the students and then taking the facilities and showing them. It's really a great one, because once we are doing the services of taking our space technology to the students community by way of giving guest lectures and other things. I am also doing this. But today, of course, we come to know through Jagathipriya about in-space activities, more details. Of course, I'm also a little bit a part of this CANSAT competition. I'm one of the juries in that CANSAT committee. So I'm very happy to be associated with the InSpec. But now we are all expecting our space industry as well as our ISRO's contribution to the world space area. I think we have to do a lot more. I think we have the capability, we have the infrastructure, we can definitely do it. And today we come to know really through Jagathipriya, he has told the means how we can achieve all these things. I think with this, I think we have to take up this, as our Kutti sir told, how to make these kind of things and how we can encourage and then motivate the students community. I think we can look into it and it will be very much useful. Thank you very much.
Febin?
Febin?
Yes, sir. I hope I am audible.
Yeah, you are.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. And first of all, thank you to Jagathipriya sir for such a good session about InSpace and its other roles and its aims and everything. Sir talked very well about how InSpace works and how InSpace evolved as one of the three facilitators of the space sector in India, and especially about how it has its encouragements and its activities in the academics and institutions, especially schools, in the school levels. Actually, it was a good session. As a student, I am very much impressed and very much decided about the thing that how InSpace helps, how the authorities help students to reach such levels in space. So, moving to the questions. Firstly, we have Varunathan, one of our student fellows from your Space Club itself. So I invite Varunathan for asking this query.
Thank you, Febin. First of all, I would like to thank all other mentors for this opportunity to ask a question here. And also, I would like to mention one more name. We have Subbarao sir here, Jagathipriya sir here, and first of all, thanks to Subbarao sir for joining with us. One thing about Subbarao sir is, like Jagathipriya sir mentioned in all his slides, whenever I got the opportunity to meet with Subbarao sir, 2 times I got an opportunity to interact with him. One thing he told is to dream big, bigger things. With our capabilities, how with our capabilities, how big we can think, we can dream about. That was one thing I got from him. So thank you, sir. Thank you for joining our session. And thank you, Jagathipriya sir, for an exciting session. And I was writing down a few questions since we got your contact. I was writing down a few questions regarding InSpace and its activities. As Kuti sir also suggested me, we have to know something about, like Kuti sir asked, what are the opportunities through InSpace? What are the opportunities we can have? I was writing down a few questions, but most of the questions were cleared through your presentation itself. And before going to my question, I would like to mention one more name is PK Jain sir, who is the director of InSpace, who gave your contact to your Space Club. Thanks to PK Jain sir for this session itself. So I would like to ask about these kind of things. Like you have been talking about the opportunities and technical integration as assembly, that kind of support that a student satellite or a student startup can have. And is there any kind of financial incubation or something, some kind of thing that InSpace can provide to student communities, like financial support or funding to any student satellite programs, or that kind of things?
Yes, Varun. Thank you for this question. And even Kuti sir also asked about the outreach for the schools and the CubeSat initiative. I think I will combine this CubeSat initiative of InSpace and the financial support, and I will try to respond to that. Actually, InSpace right now has identified as sort of see how it can support in a satellite realization or in a launch vehicle realization is, it can be divided into different phases, like a satellite project also. Like in the initial stages, you need to have to do the design. You need to complete the what you call the preliminary design or the subsystem design, hardware design, and bring that. In that, InSpace will help you by interfacing with the ISRO, either the retired experts or the experts available outside. Already for more than 5 to 6 colleges, we identified some 5 to 6 experts who are reviewing the design which the colleges have done. And this will give them a lot of confidence. That is the first stage. Once the design phase is completed, then comes the fabrication of either maybe the launch vehicle or the satellite. In this aspect, InSpace will help the colleges to identify how to get the components, how to get the materials, from where to get the materials, whether it can be fabricated within ISRO, then it will be done. If there is a possibility of doing it through an Indian industry, which InSpace is promoting, we are more efficiently promoting is there are a lot of industries which is available. You need not come to ISRO for everything. For example, we have Subbarao sir here. They have a lot of facilities through which the satellite can be fabricated or the launch vehicle components can be fabricated. We will try to identify those even industries and we will interface with them. Finally, for launching a satellite, you need a launch vehicle that will be enabled through NCIL. And after launching also, you need a lot of like mission support. You need to track the satellite, or you have to adhere to certain international guidelines like the IADC, what they called as debris mitigation guidelines. Then you may need some frequencies, the ham. If it is for a student satellite, it may be for the ham frequency. For that, you need to take approval from that what we call as IARU, that Amateur Radio Union, or you may need approval from WPC, from DOT. All these external support interfaces also, InSpace will help you in getting it done from the different other government departments. So end-to-end realization of that project will be supported. Even though you will be the front end, InSpace will be at the back end and will help you to identify what you have to do, how it has to be done, and where it has to be done. All these three things InSpace will enable you to do. Coming to a specific question of financial support, as of now, InSpace does not have an approved program for supporting the financial activities. But InSpace has the contacts of different investors who are looking to invest in this area. There are also people who are trying to support this activities as a part of the CSR program. And like our Sundaramurthy sir is a part of the CANSAT program, now we are trying to interface with the different investors so that students whose projects have been approved for this competition can get funded through these investors. So we will try to help you to identify potential investors for your academic activities also. When it comes to startup investment support, that is a different aspect. For that, there are different programs available. Hope this answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, and one more question with continuing this talk. That is, for the past few years, we have been discussing about some other opportunities in the space sector. Like in Kerala, it has been discussed about a knowledge park, a space park in the Knowledge Park Trivandrum, and some other talks were also going on other states too. So, what are the there are a lot of startups and student programs which has been awaiting some kind of incubation through these kind of space parks. So do InSpace have any kind of role in establishing space parks and other space technology incubation programs?
Yes, Varun. As I was trying to explain, there is a separate technical directorate in InSpace, which is establishing a space accelerator center. What it essentially is an incubation, which what it does is it is as a first stage, it is going to incubate around 5 to 10 startups in various sectors, especially in the sector of space applications. For this incubation, what is needed? There is the need for a facility, there is a need for a different design center, there is a need for a technical center. All these will be established where 5 to 10 startups can simultaneously work. So this project has already been initiated, and the necessary infrastructure is being established. Procurements are happening. Hopefully by March, coming March or April, this first incubation center will be inaugurated in the Ahmedabad. As an extension to that, there is also talks going on with different state governments. Like if you see in Bangalore, we have an aerospace park where our Subbarao sir has established a very beautiful facility. Similarly, we are in talks with different state governments to come up with the space systems manufacturing hub, where the land will be from the and the infrastructure will be established by the state governments, and the technical facilities will be established by InSpace. So here, what it essentially, the idea behind this is to make India as the manufacturing hub of this of the satellites as well as launch vehicles in the world.
Thank you, sir.
You can
Thank you for
see the incubation center in the next 4 to 5 months.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That was all my questions. So thanks for the opportunity, and once again, thanks to Subbarao sir for blessing us with your presence. Thank you, sir. Febin, over to you.
Thank you, Varnata, and thank you, sir, for the replies. And next, we have one question from Nilakandan, sir. I think sir is unavailable in the mic and camera, so I will ask it to sir. The question is: the world is into LEO constellation for broadband delivery. For capturing the market, what efforts have been initiated to showcase our capability?
Well, first of all, thank you, sir, Nilakandan sir, for your participation. Maybe Subbarao sir also can add to this. Initially, I will just give the remark from my side. InSpace has already in talk with many of the global as well as Indian industries who have come up with this LEO constellation. Currently, our policy, the SATCOM policy, what India is having, is undergoing a sea change. Once the policy which is shortly going to be in place, almost in a month or so, then India will be the legal aspects of the framework for establishing the constellations will be clear. And also, the government, the thought process is this constellation or the services of the broadband from through the LEO satellites have to be enabled through the Indian industries instead of ISRO or the government directly getting involved in these projects. So all the necessary support from the legal aspects as well as from the spectrum allocation as well as the orbital slots will be enabled through InSpace. However, the industries through a consortium or an individuals as an industry can come up with a proposal, commercially viable proposal, which will be enabled through InSpace. Over to you, Subbarao sir.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Jagati. Yeah, in fact, this question is very, very heavily loaded question about the business prospects in the area of creating the Leo constellations. In fact, these days, the order of the day is to go for the Leo constellations. As you see, in fact, the American FCC registered, the Federal Communications Center registered 2.75 lakh satellites, which means they are going to be Leo constellations are huge numbers. They're going to come up globally. And India is no exception. And the company like us, we also have the plans. In fact, we have already initiated the action for building up the constellations for two things. One is for the civilian application, another one is for the defense application in that. And as you know, any satellite LEOs we put the constellation, that's global in nature, which means where they're going to be used in India, can be used in Africa, can be used elsewhere also. So therefore, they're going to be global in nature. So therefore, our idea is to create the business models and contribute the space economy globally too in that, both in the defense area and also in the civilian area. And when it comes back onto the communications area, there is also an opportunity of putting the satellite in the geosynchronous orbit, and that also can be created into that area. So towards that also, we're working on that. Hopefully, once the policy is through, we'll be able to have a couple of orbital positions, and we'll be able to launch the satellites into the geosynchronous orbit for a communication too. That's another model. And coming back to the question which Mr. Kuti has put about the application side. And there are two types of applications that one should think of. One is a natural resources management, is the general application which we started using from the IRS onwards, from the Indian remote satellite, which was created for the purpose from the very beginning on that. So when you say natural resources management, it can be water, or it can be infrastructure related, it can be forest, it can be any one of soils, the geology, geomorphology, any one of those things which are of a natural in nature. So therefore, optimization of natural resources management, it becomes an important, and satellite data is being used extensively in that area for the applications. And the other area is generally, the maps of late can be used for many other purposes. So the map generation itself is becoming an art. The more of an art than science itself on that. So therefore, in that, the applications are coming from the guys coming from the software area, the IA becoming one, machine learning is becoming another application. Like this, very many things also can be created. And another application of the on the GPS side. And our NAVIC satellite gives a lot of opportunities to create new applications around the NAVIC usage. So like this, in fact, innumerable number of applications are there, depend upon the type of background the students have, they can pursue that. For example, a geologist can pursue the related to the groundwater, because the groundwater availability, the potential is determined using the geology, geomorphology, and some of the land use patterns. And those were finalized, specializing on the urban related activities. Then, urban mapping, urban utilities, a lot of other areas also can be in an urban area. And similarly, when it comes to the other mapping, they depend upon the software backgrounds, etc., they can get into other areas. So therefore, every specialist in the different students can have the different applications. There can be a lot of development activity can happen. In fact, in the applications area, there's more money than in the building of the satellite and the launch vehicle. Hope the Kuti Sahib, I answered enough. Thank you.
Very nicely answered. In fact, the last thing what you spoke about, the money lies there. So opportunity also lies there. That is the reason why I raised it, because students can do it. It will be a very, very nice idea, because thinking of a satellite is it's a huge affair, because it involves lots and lots of efforts and involvement. So application, even a small area, if one can do something, it will be great. That is it. Okay, thank you very much, Subbarao sir. Thank you very much. What next, Fabin?
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Subbarao sir, for adding in this lucid reply. And next we have Surijit with one or more two questions. They have put it in chat box, and I invite Surijit to directly ask this question.
Sir, good evening. My name is Surjit.
Good evening.
Sir,
Please
am
go
I
ahead.
audible?
Yes.
Sir, my question was, so we have to develop the satellite technology so that we can have better improvement for communication facilities and whatsoever, right? So, but my doubt is that when we try to experiment with new resources that we already have, there may be some trial and errors, and we may lose some of these resources. And by the time we develop to a new technology, we maybe have less resources to work with. So my question is, what would be the solution for this scenario?
Yes. If I understand Suresh, your question properly, means during the trial and error, we may lose that infrastructure or the facility or the resources what we are having. How to go about? So generally, any space activity or for any kind of any technology engineering solution, there are different stages through which the development goes through. And those stages like the technical reviews or the preliminary design review, then the subsystem level qualification, then the component level qualification, these are all done to ensure that the system will work as a whole. In order to do that, there are a lot of safety precautions which we have to take. Different standards are there outside, globally available. MIL standards are there, ISO standards are there. Now, InSpace itself is coming up with a space standards. If you are trying to adhere to the standards and carry out these activities, such mistakes happening at the trial and error and the loss of any resources can be avoided.
Thank you, sir, for answering my question.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Suresh, for the question. Okay, we have Sayuj here, one of our student fellows with one of his questions, and I invite Sayuj to directly ask his question.
Good afternoon, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, sir. So privatization of the space sector is definitely an important step when we considering about the space mission role, and it's definitely a needs must. But when we think about the coming future, so my worry is, does this rapid increasing of privatization is also going to produce more space debris and the issues related to that? How we are going to tackle that, sir?
Yes, Sayud, that is a very good question. Actually, already, even before India has unlocked this space sector and opened it to the private players, from decades onwards, there is a thinking going on globally how to do the debris mitigation. There are different UN bodies which have been doing a lot of deliberations. Many countries are sitting together and talking about how to mitigate this risk related to debris. And they have come out with different debris mitigation plans and different debris mitigation guidelines. And when InSpace is going to authorize the activities of the private players in the space, this debris mitigation is one of the major factors which it considers. So when any satellite is being approved or authorized by InSpace, it is going to get registered as an Indian space object. Before registration, the entire characteristics of the satellite, how it has implemented the debris mitigation plan will be studied by the experts in ISRO as well as InSpace, and it will be ensured that such measures have been suitably technically incorporated. Like for geosatellites, we have when it approaches the end of life, there should be some of the fuels or the energy available in the satellite to move it to the graveyard orbit. Similarly, for a satellite which is there in the LEO orbit, what are the control mechanism which has been incorporated in the satellite so that the debris can be brought down into the earth or brought down from that useful orbit into the place where it does not cause problems. All such aspects will be addressed during the approval stage itself, and adherence to the IATC guidelines will be ensured, and then only it will be approved. That is one of the major tasks of InSpace.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Ms. Sajil, I had just one point to make. About the funding part, of course, Ms. Jagati explained very well on that. There is also an opportunity within the Respond program with our ISRO. Normally, we should extend it to the universities. Now, since it represents a lot of schools, perhaps from the school also we can send some, some proposal. And I'm sure that, Respond program will fund you on that. Maybe we can attempt that.
Oh, it's
Because it's a part of the capacity building.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's a good idea to test it for schools. I think so far they may not have done it as I see it, but if the excellent laboratories have come up under ATL in some schools, and we have got in Calicut itself recently a lot of such laboratories. Maybe that may aid them to do some project like that if a lab support is required. It's a good idea. We can pursue it, Shajil Mash. Yeah. Yeah, we can. Yeah, Subara Saab, we had one district collector here. What Rao? Sajil Mash? Sorry, Sambashiva Rao. He left about 2 years back, but he made a very good imprint in the education sector in Kozhikode district. He brought a lot of people together in not only who are connected with education, others also, to see that how best the school education scheme can take advantage of skill development, technology development, and things like that. In that direction, he roped in a lot of people, and a lot of things happened. Sambashiva left here and he's in Trivandrum. We keep meeting him. Shajil Marsh and we keep talking to him, meeting him, and he's still, guiding us in that aspect. So that one has done good incubative thinking among students here. I think it can take advantage of that.
Good. Yeah.
So it's very nice. It's a very nice day. We had lots and lots of webinars. This 53rd one, but this one is totally different from what we had so far. So nice that things which can happen, which can kindle the mind of students in terms of productivity, in terms of making efforts to do something, create something, create their own idea and their own identification and wealth generation and things like that. That is coming out in this kind of thing. I think they'll open up their mind, and I think this will really result in a good kind of a ambience in the schools and students. So thanks very much, Jagathipriya, for coming here and seeding this idea here. And I don't know how to thank Dr. Subbarao. He's a person whose every second is costly. I hope you won't charge us for this.
No. in the latter vein, Ms. Jagati, I must appreciate Kuttisao because you use the word wealth creation. The people sitting in Kerala are talking about the wealth creation. Imagine, that's something wonderful. Thank you, Kuttisao.
Your very presence is kicking us a lot of things in us. Your very presence. That is fantastic.
Sure,
we had a meeting with NIT. I'll brief you, sir, later.
Oh,
I'll brief you
sure,
about it.
sure,
Director is very positive about it. and
Good.
we'll come back to you.
Sure. Thank you.
Jagathipriya, we are planning, our students are planning in building and developing and launching and testing all those things of a satellite. We will need lots and lots of help from you. And the whole thing is gifted by Dr. Subbarao as a alumni of NIT and also a friend of our students school students in Calicut.
Sure, sir. You are certainly welcome. I just wanted to mention that there is a website of InSpace, www.inspace.gov.in, where everybody can visit and get further information on this. And also, all the proposals we are asking people to put online, and we are also processing it online so that there is a clear transparency available. I request you or the people who are involved in this can come online and put the proposal. And anyhow, you have the guidance of Subbarao sir for totally realizing the satellite. Any help from the government side and the regulatory approvals, that we will enable. You are welcome for.
Thank you.
Good.
Yes, thank you, sir. So once again, I'm very happy about what all happened about today's session. Thanks to all our mentors for that. So we have the UL Space Club webinar quiz. In every sessions of our UL Space Club webinar, we are conducting a quiz, and we will provide the prizes for the winners, one winner of each quiz. And today also we have a quiz based on InSpace, the formation and the activities of InSpace. We have a quiz with few questions, and you can access the quiz with the link which is given in the chat window just now. So access the quiz only after the vote of thanks. Only after the vote of thanks it will be open. You can access it after that. So try to access the quiz and attend all questions. So all the best to all participants. Sir, I think now we can move on to vote of thanks with Savich.
Good afternoon all. So now is the official time to conclude our webinar session 53. We are also going to do a lot of webinars upcoming days also. So first of all, I thank Jagathipriya sir for providing us this wonderful lecture and also providing us a spark into getting into the space field, because we all are enthusiastic and we all want to work in the space field. So you guys are definitely an idol for all of us. So I also thank all other big heads here like Subbarao sir, Neelakandan sir, everybody, and Kutti sir. Everybody is just sitting with, attending a meeting with you guys all is definitely a proud moment for all of us students. So I thank you all for this wonderful moment. And I also once again thank Jagathipriya sir for providing using your precious time for giving us this wonderful lecture. And I also thank Shajil sir for doing the introductory speech, and I also thank our Varun, our student lead, for providing the welcome speech. So by this, I'm going to conclude this webinar session officially. So that's all. Thank you all.
Sure.
So nice of you, sir. See, I'll come back to you.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, what's
Thank
up?
you, Raji. Thank you, Jagathipriya ji.
Thank you, Jagathipriya. I'll come back to you, Jagathipriya.
Thank you, Bhaji. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So
Very
nice.
good, but
Such a
thank
nice
you.
meeting today. It was such a nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.